Imagine an architecture not of Europe, not of the Old World but of the earth itself, an architecture that emerges from the American landscape as if it grew there, an architecture of sheltering roofs, of flowing spaces, of light and nature woven into the very fabric of daily life. This is not just a style. It is a philosophy, a rebellion against the box, a search for an organic American identity in built form. And it was all pioneered by one man, a titan of creativity and contradiction, Frank Lloyd Wright. For over 7 decades, Wright didn't just design buildings. He designed a new way of living, championing an architecture that was for democracy, for the individual, and for the land itself. He was a prophet in a broad-brimmed hat, a master storyteller, and arguably the greatest architect America has ever produced. Welcome to UrbArchitect. I'm your host. And today, for the next 40 minutes, we are embarking on a deep journey into the life, the philosophy, the masterworks, and the monumental legacy of Frank Lloyd Wright. This is the story of how a preacher's son from Wisconsin, who never earned a formal degree, defined the course of 20th century architecture, creating everything from the intimate, revolutionary prairie houses to the staggering, gravity-defying miracle of Fallingwater and the cosmic, spiraling dream of the Guggenheim Museum. We will explore his roots in the Midwestern prairie, his fiery belief in organic architecture, his tumultuous personal life that was as dramatic as his designs, and the technical innovations that allowed him to realize his visions. We will delve into at least 8 of his most iconic projects, understanding not just their forms but the profound ideas behind them, the challenges of their construction, and their enduring cultural impact. And throughout, we will ask, why does Frank Lloyd Wright's work remain so vitally important today for both urban life and architectural education? How did he teach us to live in harmony with our environment? A lesson more crucial now than ever. We begin not with a building, but with a place and an idea, the vast, flat expanse of the American Midwest. Frank Lincoln Wright was born in 1867 in rural Wisconsin, and though he would later change his middle name to Lloyd to honor his mother's family, the spirit of the land never left him. He was deeply influenced by his mother, Anna, who, according to family legend, hung engravings of English cathedrals in his nursery and determined he would be an architect. She also gave him a set of Froebel gifts, geometric blocks that were part of a kindergarten teaching method, which Wright credited with teaching him the geometry of nature, the beauty of pure form, a foundational experience that would echo in the precise patterns of his art glass and the underlying grids of his buildings. He briefly studied civil engineering at the University of Wisconsin but left without a degree, driven by an immense ambition that could not be contained by formal education. He moved to Chicago, a city rising from the ashes of the Great Fire, a place of immense opportunity. There, he found work in the office of the great Louis Sullivan, of the firm Adler and Sullivan. Sullivan, known as the father of skyscrapers, was a visionary in his own right, and his dictum form follows function became a cornerstone of modernism. Wright was his chief draftsman for 6 years, and from Sullivan, he learned the importance of developing an organic American architecture, free from historical imitation. However, the relationship soured when Sullivan discovered Wright was accepting independent residential commissions, known as bootleg houses, on the side, a violation of his contract. The break was painful but necessary, forcing Wright out on his own to fully develop his own voice. And that voice found its first powerful expression in the prairies of Oak Park, Illinois. He famously described his core philosophy as organic architecture, a term he defined broadly but centered on the idea that a building should be inseparable from its site, that the form should follow function, but also follow the land, the materials, and the life within it. He wrote, "A building should grow from its site like a tree from the soil." This was a radical departure from the prevailing architectural tastes of his youth, which looked backward to European neoclassicism. Wright looked forward, and he looked around to the horizontal lines of the prairie. This led to his first great revolutionary movement, the Prairie School. The prairie houses, built primarily between 1900 and 1914, were his manifesto. Let's take the iconic Roby House in Chicago, completed in 1910. From the outside, it is a breathtaking composition of dramatic, low-slung horizontal lines, with sweeping, overhanging eaves that seem to hug the ground, anchoring the building to the earth. The use of brick and limestone reinforces this sense of being rooted. But the true revolution is inside. Wright shattered the Victorian tradition of small, boxy, confining rooms. He invented what he called the destruction of the box. At the Roby House, he created a free-flowing open plan centered around a massive, unifying hearth. The hearth was the symbolic heart of the home, the place of gathering. Spaces for living and dining flow into one another, defined not by walls but by changes in ceiling height, by arc glass windows, and by carefully placed screens. He compressed the entranceways, creating a sense of compression and release as you move into the grand, light-filled living space. This was more than a new floor plan. It was a new psychology of space, designed to liberate the American family from the rigid formalities of the past. The arc glass windows, with their intricate geometric patterns inspired by native prairie plants like the sumac, were not just decoration. They were intricately designed to filter light, create privacy, and unify the interior and exterior, blurring the boundary between the home and the world outside. Every detail, from the built-in furniture to the light fixtures, was designed by Wright to create a total harmonious work of art. This concept of total design is crucial. He didn't just design the shell, he designed the experience of living within it. Another masterpiece from this period is the Darwin D. Martin House in Buffalo, New York, a sprawling complex that represents the pinnacle of the Prairie Style. It consists of the main house, a pergola, a conservatory, and a carriage house, all organized around a central garden space, creating a unified domestic environment. The composition is a symphony of interlocking horizontal planes and vertical piers, a truly symphonic arrangement of form. But just as Wright was reaching the peak of his early powers, his personal life erupted in scandal. He left his first wife, Catherine, and their 6 children for Mama Borthwick Cheney, the wife of a client. The scandal was front-page news, a social catastrophe that forced him to retreat from the public eye in Chicago. He built a new home and studio for himself and Mama on his ancestral land in Spring Green, Wisconsin. He called it Taliesin, a Welsh word meaning shining brow, because he built it not on top of the hill, but on the brow of the hill, following the contour of the land, a perfect embodiment of his organic principles. Taliesin was his laboratory, his sanctuary, and the site of unimaginable tragedy. In 1914, while Wright was away, a servant, Julian Carleton, set fire to the living quarters and murdered Mama Cheney, her 2 children, and 4 others with a hatchet. The horror was unspeakable. Wright was shattered, but with an almost superhuman will, he rebuilt Taliesin, writing, "I knew if I did not get back to work I would die." Taliesin would be destroyed by fire twice more and rebuilt twice, becoming a symbol of Wright's own resilience and his lifelong belief in architecture as a restorative spiritual force. It was during this period of rebuilding that he received one of the most significant commissions of his life, one that would take him far from the prairie and test his genius on an international stage, the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo. The project consumed nearly a decade of his life, from 1913 to 1922. The hotel was a complex fusion of Mayan revival forms, which Wright found to be a primitive and powerful American style, and intricate artisanal craftsmanship. But its most famous achievement was its survival. Wright, aware of Tokyo's vulnerability to earthquakes, designed the hotel to be resilient. He conceived of it floating on a bed of soft mud, a flexible foundation that would allow the structure to sway during seismic events rather than resist and break. He used lightweight, flexible materials like Oya volcanic stone and cantilevered floors to further enhance its stability. His engineering intuition was proven tragically correct. In 1923, the Great Kanto earthquake, one of the most destructive in history, leveled much of Tokyo. The story goes that a telegram soon arrived from Wright. "Hotel stands undamaged as a monument to your genius." While this is a slight exaggeration, the building did suffer some damage. It did remain structurally intact and functioning while buildings around it collapsed, saving hundreds of lives. The Imperial Hotel, though later demolished due to subsidence issues, became a legend, cementing Wright's reputation as an architect who could solve profound practical problems with visionary, innovative solutions. The next seismic shift in his career came in the 1930s. After the Great Depression and a series of personal struggles, including a tumultuous marriage to the unstable Miriam Noel, large private homes were scarce. Wright entered a period of intense theoretical work, publishing his ideas in books and developing a new, strikingly modern and affordable vision for American housing. the Usonian automatic houses. The name Usonian was his term for a uniquely American style, free from European influence. These were modest, single-story homes designed for the middle class. They featured strong horizontal lines, built-in furniture, radiant floor heating, a revolutionary comfort at the time, and most importantly, a new approach to space and economy. The Usonian house was typically organized on an L-shaped plan, creating a protected courtyard for private outdoor living, an extension of the interior space. It used a grid system, often of concrete blocks with patterned cutouts that he called textile blocks, which made construction efficient and allowed for customization and natural light. The Herbert Jacobs House in Madison, Wisconsin, built in 1937, is considered the first Usonian. It is a masterpiece of efficient, beautiful, and democratic design. It proved that Wright's organic principles were not just for the wealthy. They could be adapted to create thoughtful, inspiring, and affordable homes for everyone, a truly democratic architecture. But it was in this same decade, seemingly against all odds, that Wright would create what is arguably the most famous private residence in the world, Fallingwater. The commission came from the Kaufman family, owners of a Pittsburgh department store, for a weekend retreat in the Pennsylvania woods. The site was spectacular, a waterfall over a rocky ledge on Bear Run. The conventional approach would have been to build a house with a view of the waterfall. Wright's solution was breathtakingly audacious. He built the house over the waterfall. The story goes that when Kaufman arrived at Taliesin expecting to see preliminary drawings, Wright instead sketched the concept on tracing paper right in front of him, a moment of pure creative inspiration. The completed house in 1937 is a symphony of reinforced concrete cantilevers, with massive terraces projecting boldly from the central core, hovering above the rushing water. The rock of the waterfall becomes part of the hearth in the living room, blurring the line between natural and built. The sound of the water is ever present. Fallingwater is the ultimate expression of organic architecture. The building and the site are fused into one inseparable experience. It is a building that is simultaneously incredibly powerful and deeply serene. The engineering was daring, and there were controversies from the beginning. The local contractors were skeptical, and the cantilevers were under-reinforced by modern standards, leading to significant sagging that has required extensive post-tensioning strengthening over the decades. But this does not diminish its genius. Fallingwater is not just a house. It is a piece of environmental poetry, a testament to Wright's belief that humans could live in nature not as conquerors, but as participants, a lesson in biophilic design decades before the term was coined. As Wright entered his final decades, his work grew even more monumental and spiritually ambitious. The Johnson Wax headquarters in Racine, Wisconsin, completed in 1939, is a stunning example. From the outside, it's a mysterious, windowless brick block, sleek and modern. But inside, Wright created a great workroom that feels like a sacred forest. Instead of conventional walls and columns, the roof is supported by slender, tapering concrete columns that flare at the top into broad, lily-pad-like discs that touch and support each other. The space is flooded with light that filters down from between these discs and from ribbons of Pyrex glass tubing, creating a soft, diffused, almost celestial light. It is a workspace designed to uplift the human spirit, to show that even a corporate office could be a place of beauty, inspiration, and community. The furniture, again designed by Wright, reinforced this holistic vision. Later, he would add the research tower, a cantilevered marvel where the floors are suspended from a central core like the branches of a tree, another innovative structural solution. And then there is the culmination, the project that consumed the last 16 years of his life, the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum in New York City. Wright was famously contemptuous of New York City, calling it a prison of verticality and a geometric atrocity. Yet he accepted the challenge from art collector Hilla Reeby to design a temple of the spirit for the non-objective art of her time. Rejecting the standard sequence of boxy rooms, Wright envisioned a continuous, ascending spiral. He argued that the traditional museum experience was disjointed. His design would create a seamless, uninterrupted flow. The finished building, opened in 1959, 6 months after his death, is a pure white, inverted ziggurat, a singular form that stands in stark contrast to the rectilinear grid of Manhattan. Visitors take an elevator to the top and then walk down a gentle, sloping quarter-mile ramp, with the artworks displayed on the outer wall, and the central space open to a vast glass dome that floods the core with natural light. The design was and remains controversial. Curators hated it, arguing that the curved walls were terrible for hanging paintings, forcing them to be tilted slightly forward. But Wright wasn't designing a neutral box for art. He was designing an experience. He believed the ramp would allow viewers to see art in a continuous, contemplative journey, much like looking out the window of a moving car. The Guggenheim is a building that is itself the ultimate work of art, a concrete poem that challenges our passive consumption of culture. It is his final defiant masterpiece, a testament to his unwavering belief in his own vision. Of course, Wright's career was filled with controversy beyond his buildings. He was a towering, often arrogant personality, a master of self-promotion who cultivated a public image as the lone heroic artist. His personal life was a constant source of gossip, with 3 marriages, financial troubles, and fierce public battles. He was fiercely critical of other architects, particularly the international style modernists like Le Corbusier and Mies van der Rohe, whose work he saw as sterile, inorganic, and un-American. He called them the flat-chested architects, for their lack of human scale and warmth. Yet, his output was staggering. He designed over 1,000 structures and more than half were built. His influence is immeasurable. He paved the way for open-plan living, which became the standard for the modern home. He championed the integration of indoor and outdoor space, a principle that is central to sustainable design today. He showed how natural materials, passive solar principles, and strategic orientation could create comfortable, energy-efficient buildings long before green architecture was a term. So why does Frank Lloyd Wright matter more than ever today? In an age of climate crisis, his philosophy of working with the land, not against it, of building sustainably and sensitively, is a crucial lesson. In an age of generic soulless development and placeless architecture, his belief in creating unique, site-specific architecture that nourishes the human spirit is a powerful antidote. For students, he teaches the importance of a total vision, of thinking about everything from the broadest site plan down to the smallest piece of furniture, the importance of detail. He teaches that architecture is not a mere service, but a moral art, one that has the power to shape how we live and feel. Frank Lloyd Wright left us a legacy of beauty, of rebellion, and of a profound belief in the potential of architecture to create a better way of life. He dared us to imagine a world where our buildings are not separate from nature, but a harmonious part of it. He taught us that a house can be a sanctuary, an office can be a cathedral, and a museum can be a journey. His work is a permanent invitation to live more consciously, more beautifully, and more organically on this earth. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the one and only Frank Lloyd Wright. What is your favorite Wright building and why? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the architects who shape our world. Until next time, keep looking up and keep looking around. Outro music fades in. Continued in next message. Ambient music continues, a slight pause before the narration resumes. To fully grasp Wright's immense impact, we must look beyond the famous masterpieces to projects that reveal the depth and breadth of his thinking, and to the enduring institution he built, the Taliesin Fellowship. Consider the Florida Southern College campus in Lakeland, a truly unique project. Over 2 decades, starting in 1938, Wright designed a series of buildings he called a Child of the Sun, using textured concrete blocks to create structures that seemed to grow from the Florida sand. The Annie Pfeiffer Chapel, with its towering perforated bell tower that casts intricate patterns of light, and the cantilevered seminar buildings connected by covered esplanades, create a campus that is a unified work of art, a testament to his ability to think on a master planning scale. The water dome, a large, serene pool, was intended to have a fountain shooting high into the air, a concept finally realized with modern technology decades later. This campus is a world unto itself, a demonstration of how his principles could be applied to an entire community of learning. Another critical yet often overlooked aspect of Wright's work is his design of modest, efficient spaces. The Usonian automatic system, which used concrete blocks that could be assembled by owners themselves, was his attempt to democratize his architecture. The Herbert and Catherine Jacobs second house, known as Jacobs II, built in 1948, is a prime example of this later, more systematic approach to affordable, beautiful housing. It uses a precast concrete grid system that is both structural and decorative, allowing for speed of construction and cost savings. It shows that Wright's organic principles were not just aesthetic, they were about creating intelligent, adaptable, and humane living environments for a broad spectrum of society, a goal that remains deeply relevant in today's housing crisis. We must also consider his own homes as living laboratories. Beyond Taliesin in Wisconsin, he established Taliesin West in Scottsdale, Arizona, in 1937 as a winter camp for his fellowship of apprentices. Built from desert rocks set in concrete, redwood, and canvas, Taliesin West is rugged, elemental, and perfectly attuned to the harsh, beautiful desert landscape. It was a school, a studio, and a community based on the idea of learning by doing. Apprentices would build the structures themselves, farm the land, and participate in every aspect of life and work. This model of an architectural apprenticeship, living and working directly with the master, has influenced architectural education for decades, emphasizing the importance of hands-on experience, craft, and a holistic understanding of the built environment. It was here that Wright, in his later years, would hold court, his personality dominating the desert just as it dominated the profession. The debate around Wright is part of his legacy. Was he a difficult genius who was always right, or a controlling artist who sometimes prioritized form over function, leading to the legendary stories of leaky roofs, tricky details, and houses that were challenging to live in? The tales are abundant. Roofs that dripped on important guests, chairs that were beautiful but uncomfortable, and clients who struggled with maintenance. But this too is a lesson that pursuing a radical vision often comes with challenges, and that architecture is a constant, sometimes fraught, dialogue between ideal and reality. His work forces us to confront the role of the architect. Is it to be a service provider who gives the client exactly what they ask for? Or is it to be a visionary artist who gives the client something they never knew they needed? Wright insisted, uncompromisingly, on being the latter. Frank Lloyd Wright's shadow is long and pervasive. You can see his influence in the open plans and strong horizontal lines of countless suburban homes, built in the latter half of the 20th century. You can see it in the mid-century modern movement's love of natural materials, expansive glass, and integration with nature, in the work of architects like Richard Neutra, Rudolf Schindler, and even later figures like John Lautner. More recently, the principles of organic architecture resonate deeply with the sustainable and biophilic design movements, which seek to connect people more closely to the natural environment for their well-being and for the health of the planet. His belief that a building should be specific to its time and place is a powerful argument against the placeless, globalized architecture that dominates many cities today. He gave America an architectural identity, and he gave the world a philosophy of building that is about more than shelter. It's about harmony, about creating a sense of belonging to a specific patch of earth. From the sweeping prairies of the Midwest to the concrete spiral in New York, from the earthquake-resistant hotel in Tokyo to the desert camp in Arizona, Frank Lloyd Wright's career was a singular, epic quest to create a truly organic architecture, an architecture that was free, democratic, and born of the land. He taught us to see the horizontal line of the prairie, to feel the warmth of a hearth, to hear the water flowing beneath our feet, and to always strive for an architecture that is as alive as the people who inhabit it. His work is a permanent invitation to imagine a more beautiful, more integrated world. He was a force of nature, and his buildings remain some of the most profound and moving spaces ever created. Thank you for watching.